Get rid of fraud. When you can advertise on Facebook Marketplace and make $300,000 a year selling COVID letters, driver's licenses, social security cards, employment letters, pay stubs, and not get in trouble until the FBI finally catches you, it's going to keep happening.
Because nobody's sticking around for 15 to 20 bucks an hour right
Absolutely.
now, right?
Absolutely. We have 3 positions within our company that make up 80% of our turnover. They're entry-level positions. Everybody's looking to better themselves and increase their pay. I think until salaries adjust to a certain point that people don't want to leave for $1, we're going to keep burning through maintenance techs, maintenance supervisors, leasing consultants are the big 3 for us.
Robotics won't replace everything we do. We still want to hang out with friends. We want to go on rides. We still maybe want to drive a car. But they can help us in those unsafe, I think about like police officers, firefighter. My dad was a firefighter, police officer. If I have to go into that smoke, that apartment building on fire, versus I can have a robot immediately go in or a drone go in faster than all of us and get up to that top story instead of me climbing a ladder that takes 10 minutes.
We have more jobs now. They're just different jobs. And I think the same thing's going to happen. I think there'll be different jobs, but we'll continue to have more jobs. In particular,
Lance, thank you so much for coming into Atlanta. So excited to have you here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
As we were talking, I think a lot about cycles. And I think so many people in this world are short-sighted. They're thinking about their next check, their next payday, their next day, their week, their quarter. The entire stock market is this month or this quarter. But in real estate, I found some of the most successful people are thinking about years and even not selling. Tell me a little bit about your strategy and how you're, I think as you said, underwriting beyond today. How do you think about investing, underwriting, and maybe so the positives and the challenges you've learned?
I think there was 4 questions in that one question. No, happy to do it.
Sure.
I think, for us, we've always approached the business looking out through strategic planning. Our strategic planning is 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. And part of that is how do we want to position the portfolio and the assets in the portfolio to maximize value? 101. I think we all try and do that in different formats. We want to be able to have a hold horizon that can let us transcend a recessionary period or a period in the industry that's just not good. So we're obviously creating value on the backside of that or before that. We were talking about one of my peers that does it very well. Anyways, consequently, we are not merchant builders. We are typically going to build a Class A community on the development side, and we're going to have a hold period forecasted between 5 and 7 years. We've held for 10, we've sold in 3. We're looking to hold long enough to maximize. On the acquisition side, it's the same thing. However, each time there's alignment with our partner on that particular transaction. So that sometimes makes us hold shorter or longer. So there's that.
I think one of the other wild things is that, you've probably touched, whether it's developed, acquired, sold, managed roughly probably $5 billion, over 10,000 units of multifamily housing, even storage. One of my best friends, I'm on his board, he has tons of storage, at one point had over 50 facilities. And it's so interesting between the two. I'm kind of want to get your thoughts around the attainable housing. Everyone just says, just build more. But it's not that easy, right? I mean, as you talk about underwriting, how do you think about, especially in a market from, thinking about something as a market rent versus a low income housing and what's needed to make that happen?
Let me touch on 2 things.
Sure.
You talk about underwriting and we were talking about hold periods.
Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges today for all of anybody in the industry is getting alignment with your capital partners. And what I mean by that is they're under pressure to create quarterly returns and distributions. And really, it's very difficult for them to look out past today and see the opportunity coming at us. And we look at it both ways. We're very focused on today's results, certainly, but we're looking down the road on where's the opportunity going to be and when is it time to lean in to take advantage of that opportunity. And on the development side, it takes us to formulate, start a project, and deliver it. It can take us 2 to 3 years to get there. Certainly from breaking ground, it takes us 12 to 14 months to deliver. So we see a different world 18 months from now. We certainly do. And just really through analytics and understanding the data that is available to all of us in the industry. So trying to get alignment with current capital partners, I think, is a challenge for everybody in the business right now. I'd like to lean in and talk about that for 2 hours, but
Sure, yeah.
so anyways, I wanted to touch on that.
And one of the hardest things is I was just in Denver, and the toughest thing is being able to build, attainable.
Yeah.
They were saying, I can buy new housing, I can buy existing 20-year-old housing for $100,000 a unit in Denver in certain parts, but it costs them $300,000 to $350,000 a unit to build attainable or low-income housing right now because of all the regulations and rules.
Yes.
So it doesn't pencil. Are you finding it, and obviously every municipality can be so different within a market. How do you think about penciling those deals? Is it more government partnerships? Is it that you're taking a leap of faith and you figured out a secret that nobody else knows?
No, we have not figured out a secret that nobody else knows. I think what we're doing is approaching a different channel of development, not leaving Class A, but starting another effort to really try to hit that unserved middle. Without a public-private partnership of some kind, I don't think we can serve low to moderate income. I think we're looking at 80 to 120 AMI is kind of the segment I'm focusing on.
Sure.
Or maybe even up to 150 AMI. And writing a couple $100 below Class A for new high-quality housing that maybe isn't quite as amenitized as Class A, maybe isn't located at Main and Main like Class A would be, but nevertheless, a tremendous alternative for individuals and families for good high-quality housing at a more affordable level. And so it's really been interesting and enjoyable for us going down this path, trying to figure out the puzzle. And many of my peers have done it and are doing it as well. And at the same time, I think we can make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can create a tremendous return. And so there's multiple reasons to do it. Somewhat altruistic, but profit-driven for sure. And I've got some peers that I've collaborated with that have shared some of their best practices in the attainable housing effort that's been extremely successful. And we're going to use some of those ideas. We're not trying to figure it all out ourselves. We're looking to our peers to help us, and the industry's coming together to do that.
Great. Technology helping with underwriting, with deals and acquisitions. Obviously you're going through, everyone's it seems like it's picking back up right now. How are you using, whether it's AI or new technologies? What's maybe the coolest thing you're seeing out there, whether it's in the underwriting, the operations, or even the construction side?
I've seen a lot of applications that have great potential.
Sure.
I've yet to see any that are truly bearing fruit the way in which they were marketed.
Got it.
But
expectations.
I am seeing some cool stuff. For instance, one of the things that plagues us internally is a tug of war between safety and quality control on the construction sites, in particularly roofs.
Yeah.
So we have a strong bias not to allow people up on roofs.
Okay. Back
in the day, I got on roofs all the time and looked at the work to make sure it was right. In the litigious nature we're in today, we don't do that.
Is it a drone? You just have the drone set up and checking them out?
There's now technology out there that appears to be extremely good, and it can allow us to do as good a job or maybe even better than an in-person inspection utilizing that drone technology.
Wow.
And so we're just getting ready to actually deploy it and utilize it in lieu of paying somebody to come inspect. So we're probably going to dual track for a period of time.
Yeah.
Compare the report to both reports. But I think that's the wave of the future for for exterior inspections,
Got it. Yeah.
for many things, not just new construction, but property management. AI technology, I think from the maintenance standpoint on the exterior, I think is going to be key.
I want to tell you about our new sponsor, iRestify. Property managers, here's the truth. Happy residents stay longer, and clean properties create happy residents. That's exactly what iRestify does. They specialize in multifamily cleaning and maintenance services that keep your residents happy and buildings pristine. They handle everything from common areas to turnovers. iRestify provides fully vetted professional cleaning teams and uses its proprietary platform to remotely monitor, schedule, and manage cleaning and maintenance operations across property portfolios. You get proof of service, quality inspections, and resident satisfaction reports, all through one easy app. Visit iRestify.com to see why so many multifamily pros are switching to iRestify.
I completely agree. I think, I'm a huge hardware fan. And I think, you touched on it, the safety. Robotics won't replace everything we do. Like we still want to hang out with friends. We want to go on rides, still maybe want to drive a car. But they can help us in those unsafe, I think about like police officers, firefighter. My dad was a firefighter, police officer. If I have to go into that apartment building on fire, versus I can have a robot immediately go in or a drone go in faster than all of us and get up to that top story instead of me climbing a ladder that takes 10 minutes. I think of all those types of things.
Sure, absolutely.
I think Adrian even hit on like these machines that can do the drywall and the stone laying. They're still trying to figure that stuff out. Maybe I want to get your thoughts on this, is when thinking about that technology, whether it's the rooftop, AI or drone, what is it? What is the thought process for you or your team to think about the ROI and or the NOI and the level of risk versus it's been the way we've done it for 20 years. When do you start to say, okay, now we're ready to either try a new technology or to deploy a new technology all out?
The leading edge for us is really is manipulation of data, gathering data and communicating the data in a friendly, consistent, accurate manner. We spend many, many man hours building reports. And these reports are needed. They're needed for communication with capital partners, internal KPIs, things like that. And my regionals they're probably their number one complaint is all the reports they have to do. And I get it, as well as our project managers in construction and everybody in the C-suite doesn't like that. We are seeing great solutions come forward, not without a lot of work to set them up and perfect it within our own systems. But as I talked earlier with Adrian, we are seeing the evolution of that starting to bear fruit. And so our first place we're going to see it truly is in our reporting and in our asset management functions. We think that's going to be much more accurate, much more timely, and much more structured than perhaps it's been in the past.
Huge. It's coming at us so fast, as a CEO with, hundreds of employees, and as you're thinking about, being more efficient. I heard, Salesforce just announced they're laying off 3,000 or 4,000 people. How do you think about AI, especially when you're balancing culture, right? And we talked earlier about the challenge of retaining certain roles. And not everyone wants to use AI, especially if it's cumbersome. How do you think about the balance of AI, technology, and culture all together as a leader?
Well, I remember back, and this ages me, but when the whole robotics thing came out, and United Auto Workers, threw a fit and did everything they could to bar robotics out of car factories. We have more jobs now.
Yeah.
They're just different jobs. Yeah. And I think the same thing's going to happen. I think there'll be different jobs, but we'll continue to have more jobs. In particular, and Adrian and I were talking about this, I don't see an AI. Well, I can't conceive of an AI solution for maintenance. I think there has to be a human involved with property maintenance in all aspects. Certainly, we can robotic mowers and things. That's easy. But I'm talking about actual technicians fixing things and maintaining things. isn't going away. But what about sales? We've seen bots play a major role in the business.
Yeah.
Big time.
Especially in the leasing world.
Driving traffic,
Yep.
Creating, the app to show or
Self-touring. Yeah.
Just it's been amazing, and it's going to keep evolving, and it's going to get better and better.
Yeah.
But we still need somebody to close. We still, in the self-storage business, we're way over 50% remote leasing, digital leasing through a bot. And apartments, I don't see it. I don't see it that way. It's where you're going to live, not store something. And so I think it's going to play a major role, but we're still going to need leasing consultants. And I think customer service. If you can't eventually be able to walk in and talk about a challenge you're having and to somebody that's going to do something about it right away, you're going to be frustrated. So I tell our colleagues, look, guys, it's a tool. It's going to help us be more efficient. It's not going to eliminate your jobs.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that. I think it is going to make us more profitable, more efficient, and maybe create the throughput.
Because maybe as you look at that dollar figure per person, right? Many CEOs look at, it's going to go up per person. Each person can be more efficient, more accurate. Hey, maybe they can even take more time off, have more vacation, So I think one of the other big pieces is, when we're thinking about leadership styles, we talked, your father, Larry, and you kind of grew up in the business, right?
I did.
Yeah.
He's our founder.
Yeah.
Larry Swank, Senior, we call him now.
Okay.
Because my brother's Larry Swank II.
Okay.
And they bookended me. I'm 18 years younger than Larry Senior, and I'm 18 years older than Larry II. Larry
wow.
II.
Okay.
So it's a interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
He
big range.
Certainly tremendous mentor and set the stage for our growth and success.
Awesome. Are there any stories you think back that he taught you, or that just you didn't realize in the moment, but now you're like, I think of my grandfather. My grandfather was a developer in California, and I didn't realize in the moment all this knowledge I was getting from him of how to treat people, the golden rule. No clue. Didn't realize it. Building cities and thinking about generations, 10 years, 15, 20, and what it means compounding. Are there any life lessons you learned from him?
Yeah, I think with Larry Sr., it's first off, I didn't grow up with him. My parents were divorced, but I think it created a really unique dynamic. We're friends, we're partners, and we're father and son. It's really a wonderful dynamic.
Yeah.
That said, the business grew together. Together we grew the business. And so we were both learning. But the fundamentals are really what I think you're driving at.
Yeah.
And probably the thing that just resonates with me over and over and over again. And at the time, I'm like, yeah, right, was the hardest thing you'll ever do is manage people. Yeah. Easiest thing you're going to do is build a property. And he is so right. Absolutely correct. And I remind our teams of that, which they don't need to be reminded. They agree. But it's all about our people. If we focus on our people, success will follow without question. So that's the most valuable piece of advice he ever gave me is to focus on our people, surround ourselves with the best people, and retain them. And that's a whole other rabbit hole.
Not easy, especially in this business. But if you're, I think that's the thing is that there oftentimes is such a low bar in our business. I've spoken to some CEOs who are recruiting from hotels right now or hospitality, where they're trying to keep you for one night and spending a fortune. Yet we're trying to sometimes keep people for 9 months to 24-month leases, right?
Sure.
And you think about, the engagement and the competition in our industry. So on that topic, something else I want to ask you about is something that's dear to your heart is the JWAS Foundation.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I appreciate you bringing it up, Chris. We had a tragedy in our family over 20 years ago. My youngest brother was 22 months old, and he got ran over in the driveway by the caregiver. And obviously my dad and his wife at the time were devastated, as was the whole family. And through a lot of faith and soul searching, they made a commitment to do something positive with Jackson's death. And his name was Jackson. And, the tagline for us is, a child lost, a gift given. And so what evolved from that very tragic event was the JWAS Foundation, Jackson William Augustus Swank Foundation. And what we do, and by the way, the family is the trustees, and we believe it will continue to be a family-driven foundation. But we cover the tuition and all aspects of education from preschool through undergraduate for individuals. If they have siblings, they become legacies, and they come into the program as well. And what we've learned through this is it's not just about the scholar. It's about the families and the number of very important tools and accommodations that we have to bring to the table to really create success. These families are all socioeconomic at certain levels, and it's been amazing to watch them blossom and thrive. So I appreciate that very much, and our family supports it. And by the way, our family, in particular, my father and his wife, cover all the administrative costs of our foundation. Our donors, 100% goes to our kids. So it's really cool. We utilize this as a great example of community engagement for our colleagues in our business. There's no mandatory giving or anything like that. We make it available, events and things that they can participate in involving JWAS. And as just a great example for them to identify another community engagement idea that the company will support. And we do that. And we do it across the portfolio. We wish our colleagues did more of it. It's one way it helps us cement culture, and which is a key to our long-term success, is being able to share culture, manage culture, and try and get it down through the ranks, which is the hardest thing to do.
I think that's so important, because when we think about these communities that we're fortunate enough to work in this business of people where they spend most of their lives, right? In a building, in a property, and the kids. I was just having this conversation and I hadn't really thought of it. Now that I'm a dad, I couldn't believe moving into an apartment building that didn't have a playground, a pool, nice clean grass, right? Safe places to roam. And I think, you hit it on the head, is that sense of community too. So many owners of real estate don't understand they're actually, if you're in storage, that's one thing. You want those people out of there as fast as possible. You don't want people staying there. But in apartment buildings, it is about connecting the dots. And there's such a, you think about mental health and wellness and
providing
jobs.
a lifestyle.
Yeah. And so, thank you for sharing that, because it's not easy to share, I'm sure, but I think it's so important for people to hear. And that you are investing your time and resources into giving back to the community. Something we talked about is legacy. And I would love to hear about legacy, because I think I had mentors who taught me a lot. If you know Alan King or Cindy Clare,
Great mentors.
Doug Bibby, right?
Doug, absolutely.
Right. And Kevin Donnelly over at NMHC. So I've gotten to learn from these folks over the last 10 to 15 years who took me under their wing. They literally pulled out chairs for me at the table, right? When I knew nobody, got me involved, showed me the industry, how well, and again, that long-term thinking. And I always think about the word of collaboration. So I'd love to hear from you, because you're very active in the industry. And a lot of people think that people make money from NAHB by volunteering, by being on the board at NMHC or at RETC, but these are nonprofits and organizations. So can you tell me about what it means to you to step up, to lead others, to give back to the industry, to give your money, right? Because a lot of people, it's hard for people to understand parting with their money. Can you share a little about that?
That's a wonderful question. I would say that I've gotten back multiple fold to what I put into it. Just the peer-to-peer networking through those organizations is invaluable. And we tell our senior leaders the same thing. We want them to participate in these opportunities, because they're going to glean great ideas that others have. And we're going to share great ideas. and it's going to make us all better and the industry better.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've taken the position there are no secrets. There's collaboration, as you pointed out. And one of the great groups that I participate in is the Multifamily Leadership Board within NEHB. And it's all multifamily guys. And they're all national developers. And a tremendous group, great transparency, great collaboration. Can't get enough of it. Why do we serve? Why do we give our time? It's really to be in the know and to provide influence. And so if we can be with an organization like NMHC and participate, or NEHB, who both have strong lobbies, it's important. And it creates value for us. So I've gotten a huge amount of value out of being able to influence legislation or regulation and be in the know, understanding what's coming at us and what it means. So if somebody is isolated and doesn't participate in these industry groups, they're truly missing a golden opportunity.
I didn't realize, I think one of the wildest things to me is the lack of education of the lawmakers, not only at, no offense, but at the national level, but then you've got the state level, and then you've got the county and municipal level. And that's got to be one of the hardest things, not only as an operator. I just talked to a CEO here in Atlanta who said that they've had over $1 million in fines in one city, some random city, on one property over like the last couple of years.
That's crazy.
And to hear the development challenges of stamped, approved properties, and then they say, oh, no, we don't care that we stamped it or the last guy stamped it. We're changing that, right? Fire marshal or somebody else. I mean, it's got to be excruciating. I know someone in LA, by the way. You don't build in LA. Right?
No, thank goodness I don't build in California.
They were planning on a 2.5 to 3 years. It's now been 4.5 years and is not open yet. And there's such a need. So their pro forma actually says the rents will probably be double what they had planned because of all the fires. So, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what is something that needs to be done from that level of thinking about lawmaking, education, and consistency across municipalities.
Well, I could sell a lot of books if I had the answer to that question, but I'll touch on one regulatory issue, and that really is the GSEs. And I think while it's on the radar, it's sitting there, and I think we need to lean in and get in front of it. Privatizing the GSEs is going to have, in my opinion, a significantly negative effect on our businesses.
Okay.
It remains to be seen. I think it's been half-baked, and I think there's a group on Wall Street that will make a lot of money if they privatize, and that may be driving that whole conversation. Anyways, that's the number one thing that I would focus on if I were driving the train. The other is, in a good way, the rollback in regs has been tremendous for our industry. In particular, energy code. Crippling energy code is just being adopted from an energy management standpoint and cost standpoint for very little gain. And I think that government's lost its way and putting way too much form over function when it comes to how we're building properties and the environment we're creating for our residents. So some of the rollbacks that we've seen with this current administration have been a breath of fresh air, and I think very welcomed, and really alleviated some really dramatic costs that we were facing.
I know it's I think everyone agrees. Maybe the NIMBYs don't agree. It's the YIMBYs who agree, but people want more housing. People feel like they're, especially they're being squeezed. And so at the end of the day, we all know we need more housing. It's a natural supply and demand. But I know it's an all hands on deck between Pinniger over at NEA, Sharon Wilson-Janot, NAHB. The list goes on and on, all of these great organizations that are really putting out the cry. We need to support builders and developers, give them resources, make it consistent across the board. So, let's go over to another sector, because I think, we can talk about development till the cows come home. That could be an episode to itself. But the challenge of finding the great workforce and retaining those people. We talked about culture earlier. You hit on it that probably about 60 to 70% possibly of turn is in kind of a few different roles. Tell me about that. Like, what do you think is the biggest challenge there? Because nobody's sticking around for 15 to 20 bucks an hour right
Absolutely.
now, right?
Absolutely. We have 3 positions within our company that make up 80% of our turnover. And they're entry-level positions. Everybody's looking to better themselves and increase their pay. I mean, that's normal. It's been that way forever. It's always going to be that way. I think the industry has been slow to recognize that this is not going to go away anytime soon. I hear people in my organization saying, well, this too will change and it'll slow down. Well, I don't think so. I think until salaries adjust to a certain point that people don't want to leave for $1, we're going to keep burning through maintenance techs, maintenance supervisors, leasing consultants are the big 3 for us. And it's expensive. It's expensive to train them. It's expensive it's less expensive to retain than it is to recruit and train. So we're spending a tremendous amount of time on that. And to that whole point, taking culture and pushing it down through the ranks is so important. It's so difficult that we take a tremendous amount of time and effort to do so. And we can do better. We haven't achieved our goal, but we keep improving, and it is paying dividends. That said, when you have very little rent growth and you have increasing operating expenses, controllable and uncontrollable, it makes it very hard to swallow significant salary increases. We all know that.
You think about when you go into a property. And, I always thought, okay, it's the leasing team, it's the sales team, there's obviously the management team, there's the leasing team, and those are the core people. But it's amazing because you walk on the property and you actually, I'm thinking of a specific property. I just took my son. We toured like 6 properties in a day. It was 100 degrees in Florida. We were down there and just outside of Jacksonville near Amelia.
Brutal.
And we took Gatorades and treats and snacks and delivered them to properties. And my son made about 40 thank you cards. Hand delivered and made they were like, this made my month.
That's awesome.
And the people who were inside, obviously the leasing and the management teams, people outside in that 100-degree humidity were cutting the trees, trimming the grass, and they couldn't be more friendly of saying hi. Hey, welcome, and walk up, thank you. And it just made their day. So I think about, the maintenance teams who maybe have been overlooked. It now seems like that is the golden opportunity to actually, you think about it, it's like, I've seen some properties say, hey, you're going to see this person calling them out. Like, you're going to see this person all the time. And they're really, truly probably the person who's going to retain you at that building, maybe more than anyone.
They're certainly a key component.
Yeah.
They have limited influence, obviously.
Sure.
Compared to the manager. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. They're not going to negotiate your lease.
Reward, recognition are the 2 twin towers, and beyond payroll.
Yeah,
that's what we focus on to try and retain, is recognition and reward, and at every level, but in particular the unsung heroes on the properties who you were talking about.
Yeah,
the individuals out there that are truly working in the heat, working in the cold, and dealing with the practical aspects of maintaining an asset and serving customer needs. So, I don't have a magic pill or a magic wand to correct the situation. We just have to keep blocking and tackling and doing the right things and recognizing that hard work and their successes. And at the same time, being somewhat empathetic when there is a setback and taking the opportunity to train before we simply just make a change.
I love how you talked about it, though, about recognition. Because I think a lot of people say, well, I'm paying you. But it's actually appreciation. Thank you.
It's critical.
Wow. That was magnificent, what you just did. And calling out, I think I've had to teach myself, it's not just saying thank you or you did a great job. It's, wow, you really did that specific action. You really stepped out and stepped away from your role that you knew you had to get a job, but that person needed help with their car or with their kids or the groceries or something like that.
We do a call, all hands on deck, the entire company once a month. And that's not the only thing we do, but we have a thing called above and beyond at the beginning of that call.
Yeah.
Anybody in the organization can do a shout out for somebody. You would be surprised about how good it makes somebody feel to get a shout out in that above and beyond. And basically what you're doing is identifying somebody who did go the extra mile and made a difference in either a customer's life or a colleague's life, just because they did the right thing or did something brilliant or whatever. It's important. And it pays dividends.
Do you know, you might know Dr. Debbie. She's great at that. Obviously she was just sitting in your seat a couple weeks ago, but she's so good at that. She couldn't be here today. She's down at an event, but a great example of that, constantly helping, supporting people, especially right now with turnover and people looking for new jobs. Something else I want to hit on is because whether it's the labor or it's the properties, and you talked about 3 to 7 years sustaining through cycles. You've seen cycles, and one of the things I love to study are cycles. I'm always shocked, like right now, and everyone is saying, "Oh no, we're just waiting for rates to go down." I'm like, just waiting for rates to go down. So I guess it's going to pencil when that rate goes down. And what happens if it doesn't? Because I sit next to people who have been through cycles and they say, "Oh, your rate of your 3% on your house or 5%." I remember my first house was 6.5%. My next house was my next condo was 4.5%. My current house is 2.75%, which is locked into 2.75 on another apartment building. I'm talking to people and they're like, "I remember when it was 18% on my house, 17, 18%. So how do you think about cycles? And do you have a story about cycles, or maybe a lesson learned from somebody about cycles?
Maybe more about trying to prepare for cycles.
Okay.
There's different types of developers and owners out there, certainly the whole spectrum. Our position isn't really that unique, but it's slightly unique. We're not a merchant builder, so we're not building and flipping right away, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do that, you are taking some significant risk, typically with interest rates, but there's fixed rate out there too. So we've taken the position that we want very little exposure to floating rate debt.
Okay.
And that's kind of safeguards a lot of volatility. We also like longer term mortgages at a fixed rate as long as it aligns with our partners' expectations. That said, we spend a lot of time and money looking out a number of years on where we see the overall economy.
Yep.
And none of it's right, but you can get a direction, or you can build a game plan that you can't get hurt building the game plan. You can only prosper. And so we've taken a position that we feel like that we are in a kind of a holding pattern on rates. We might see a little movement, maybe 20 basis points or 25 basis points. I'm talking about the 10-year now, not SOFR. But it's a new normal. And, is it 4%? Is it 3.90? Is it 4.20? But a new normal. And we think that new normal ain't going to last more than about 2 to 3 years. And we think rates are going to go up. And so we are looking at that and applying a strategy that hopefully puts us out far enough that gives us options to both sell and have the loan be retained, or prepay. But regardless, we could very well see 8%, 9% interest rates.
Wow.
That would be catastrophic, especially if you're sitting on floating rate debt or short-term debt. So we've taken that view and we've started building the portfolio around that, and are looking at key capital events leading up to that time. This is all driven by debt, sovereign debt. And until that gets addressed, you got to sell treasuries.
I mean, I've read a lot of, love to read, I'm more, my wife reads very different books than I do, but I love to read more nonfiction. I love reading business books as well, especially on real estate. Whether it's Sam Zell, diving into, Find Your Why by, Simon Sinek.
Excellent.
Who are some people or maybe some life lessons maybe that you've met or some books that you've read that stood out to you? You feel free to give shout outs too of people that have had an impact.
I'll tell you
on
one
your
in particular. It's not fun to read.
No.
Okay. It's not fun, but it's as somebody who's guiding the direction of companies, it's probably one that should be read as input. Not as a guidebook, but as input.
But every CEO should read this.
Well, certainly in our industry, I think it's meaningful to think it through, to think about what it portends. Okay. And there's two brothers, the Bolio brothers, that have a company called ITR. And ITR is a nationally recognized East Coast-based economist, and they've been around for many, many years. They have a unique algorithm they use, but it doesn't matter. They wrote a book called Prosperity in the Age of Decline. And it came out in 2015. So it's now getting long in the tooth. But it kind of talks about the major economic forces facing our country and the world and what it means for business owners in different sectors. It's sobering.
Yeah.
But it also, if you think it makes sense, it can help you can help apply that to your strategic planning.
So that,
and it's helped us. It's helped us a lot.
I think, there's certain people, I follow, I'm sure you do, Jay Parsons.
Of course.
Some other, Greg Willett.
Excellent.
Obviously the team, teams at a lot of the orgs are sharing data. Who are some people that you've gotten to meet, whether it's at NMHC, at NAHB, any of these firm groups or other of your peers that you'd like to shout out that have made an impact on you or people that you think their leadership is just really rock solid? Any other CEOs out there or even partners you've worked with, or maybe you want to shout out some people on your team?
Well, I've got great leaders.
Yeah.
They're the key to our success. I can tell you that. It's not me.
Yeah.
Our head of property management, Andrea Vinstra, is just a complete rock star leader of people, and a great, she's great on all aspects, both people skills, analytical skills. So she's incredible. We've got a deep team and a great team.
Because that's difficult because they're probably overseeing all types of. There's always the things we plan for, and there's the stuff that just happens every day that you have to dive in, all hands on deck.
And we're structured with 2 asset classes, so we manage all of it ourselves. So it's our self-storage and our multifamily properties, but it's under one leader, and that reports to me. And then she has 2 tremendous key leaders under her, Adele Norris and Jade. Jade is amazing. But anyways, I'm getting off the plates. So you asked me the question about some great people that I've met, other great CEOs, and there's just a bunch of them. But I'll tell you, a great firm that's very friendly with us, we share a lot of information, is Thompson and Thrift out of Indianapolis.
Okay. Paul
Thrift runs a tremendous business with great culture and great profitability. And when we speak, and it's part of an industry group that I belong to, you share a lot of great information, but you can't always do that in other organizations. This one, there's such confidence that people understand it really nothing's that private. I mean, you can all figure it out. So I would say Paul's a guy you want on your podcast. He's a great guy.
Love to have. Yeah, we'll have to have them fly on down. We're always looking for recommendations. Shout out to your team, Derek on your team who set this up.
Derek,
I think one of the things actually he had messaged to ask about your leadership style. So is there anything unique to your leadership style? We talked a little bit about culture earlier, but is there a leadership? There's some folks who are lead from the back. As they say, leaders eat last, especially in the military. And then there's other people who pull people along, and lead from the front. Do you have a style or a leadership process that you think?
Yeah. I got a lot to learn about leadership. but I've muddled through. And I think part of the reason that I've been able to have some success is that I've done a lot of jobs in the industry. I've experienced a lot of positions. I haven't done every position in property management, but I've done a lot. And of course, development construction, I've done all those. Having empathy with your colleagues is very important. If you're new to the industry and you're just coming in to be a CEO of an organization, you're not going to have that empathy because you're not going to understand what the guy in the 100-degree heat that's trimming the bushes or whatever he's doing, or her. It's huge. So having that empathy, I think, is helpful to me to do a shout out, to understand when something isn't right or when something is really right, and allows me to make some decisions and focus on certain things that others may find odd that I'm focusing on it, but I'm seeing something from experience that's going to lead to something else. I'm extremely detailed, which can drive some people crazy.
Yeah.
However, that detail and commitment to detail, I think, is another key component of our success. The attention to detail is critical.
Yeah.
I believe in empowerment of your team with accountability.
Yeah.
And sometimes I see some of our junior leaders, fresh from business school, pounding the empowerment drum, but they don't talk about the accountability part.
Mm-hmm.
And so what tends to happen is authority will be given and there can be some bad consequences because there was no accountability along with it. So it's a measured approach. And I would think that I'm probably known as being very fair, but also very demanding.
Yeah. I come from a military family and police and firefighter family. So accountability is a key thing there. The workouts, eating, timing, being on time. You know, my grandma always said, to be on time is to be late. To be early is to be on time. And so learn that. But this has been a lot of fun. And there's so many things we can dive into. I think one of the other things that you hit on earlier around ROI, NOI, we talked a little about AI. Mm-hmm. We talked about, in one of the worlds, again, I feel like multifamily, and this is what a lot of people say when they come on, is that multifamily tends to be behind. If you're in SaaS, if you're in a technology company, you're obviously going to use technology. If you're in the, Google or any of these large billion-dollar corporations, we're managing billions of dollars on the multifamily side, as you said, using it in leasing and other operations. On the development side, I still think that is one of the most exciting worlds because it is, but I just heard an investor say he's in development, and he said today he's like 5-7% maybe is automated for us. They're doing some modular stuff. He's like, I think in 10 years, he thinks 90% could be automated. What are your projections? And it doesn't have to be around that, but in terms of technology, do you have any projections or beliefs that other people don't believe, or that maybe you have a unique perspective on the industry?
Adrian asked me a similar question. I don't think we're going to be 90% automated.
Okay, 10 years.
Anytime soon.
Yeah.
The modular technology is outstanding. The modular homes are very well built in a controlled environment, and they can be built cheaply. But you got to get them on site. You got to transport them to get them on site. And the further away you get from that manufacturing facility, the more money it costs. Mm-hmm. Nobody's figured that part out other than to build more factories. Yeah. And, there are those that are leaning in and doing it. I see it playing a role, and probably an expanded role. I don't see it taking over. I think technology is going to be in our systems more than it is in the physical plant. Yeah. I really do. Now, having said that, as I told Adrian, I think technology and materials that we use to build properties, I think is going to evolve. Yeah. And I can't even imagine, but I see that coming. I also see the equipment we utilize, both to heat and cool
Yeah.
and operate. That's definitely going to become revolutionary.
Yeah. Energy is probably one of the biggest opportunities,
Absolutely.
especially with data centers.
And how we communication technology is going to continue.
Yeah.
I talked to a gentleman today, and he's like, "Well, let's just run it through the electrical copper system."
Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
that wasn't available 10 years ago. So no, I see opportunity. I saw one of the questions that you were going to ask about,
Yeah.
What is the big game changer coming? And I think it's just in systems more than anything else. I really do. Yeah, we're going to automate some. On the development side, there's huge strides on concept, design. All of that is evolving, and it's huge. I don't know if you've seen some of the site planning software that's out there
Yeah.
now. It's just tremendous, and it's going to allow us to get break ground quicker. And I see that being the benefit. I think there's going to be more accuracy
Yeah.
in what we're doing.
Less mistakes.
Less mistakes.
So the
because
human
of it.
errors, the delays. Yeah.
Well, just in survey work, I
Yeah.
mean, and title search, and just things like that's going to revolutionize what we do and how we do it. It's going to be quicker. It's going to be more accurate, in my opinion. It's going to cost money.
Yeah.
But it's part of it. I saw a question that you asked me that I want to answer.
100%.
You said if you had a magic wand and you could wave it
Yep.
to improve the operations of your properties, what would it be?
Yep.
Get rid of fraud.
Oh, yeah. Fraud and fintech.
Fraud has become a byproduct of information technology explosion.
Yes.
And when you can advertise on Facebook Marketplace and make $300,000 a year selling COVID letters, driver's licenses, social security cards, employment letters, pay stubs,
I've heard the support dogs. Yeah.
and not get in trouble until the FBI finally catches you, it's going to keep happening. There's actually how-tos on the internet and on TikTok and on Instagram,
Reddit,
on how to avoid eviction or how to live in rental housing without paying rent. Fighting that, and really the fraudulent documentation of the lease process is critical. Now, we've made great strides, but as soon as we make a stride forward, it gets counteracted with technology. So that to me is probably the number one threat we face is resident selection and approval process. It's devastating. It really is. I've seen properties that got taken down because of it. Not ours, but I've seen it.
It's sad because we're one of the largest employers of jobs in the nation, right, in the housing world and in commercial real estate. It blows my mind even with rent control. I used to live in rent control in San Francisco, and how many millionaires and tens and hundreds of millionaires have homes in rent control as a second, third, or fourth home. And that whole, saying we're going to have rent control doesn't solve the problem. And I think going back to the core problem, to your point, kind of earlier as we were talking about legislation. Legislation takes time, education. You have to have people come together to make decisions. But I think that's something I think why it's so important what you hit on around NAHB and the nonprofit and leadership and legacy of educating others, because if not, you can't build.
Yeah, rent control is the other big issue. And I think NMHC, NEHB, NAA have done a really good job of getting the word out that, guys, this is a supply issue.
Yeah.
It's not greedy landlords. This is a supply and demand driven situation. And until there's more housing options for people, it's a commodity.
Yeah.
You're going to pay up for it. So the answer is to build more housing, not try and, read the hundreds of white papers out there that clearly identify the travesty of rent control, that it doesn't work. It'll lead to substandard housing for sure.
Well, I appreciate you coming. Is there anything else you didn't get to cover that you want to make sure you leave us with? Word of advice, maybe some of the best advice you have for others that you give?
I don't have any real words of wisdom other than live every day like it's your last day.
Yep.
And treat everybody that way, for sure. And your life will be better. But I've appreciated the time. Chris, this has been awesome. Love the conversation with Adrian. You guys have a wonderful podcast, and glad I could be here.
Thanks for flying down to Atlanta. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll have some fun later today. You're going to get to see a lot of people, but continue the great work you're doing and the team and leadership. And I can't wait to go visit some of your properties.
I look forward to it.
You have to show us your favorite.
You'll have to see our newest asset over in Lawrenceville called Argento at Sugarloaf. That should open its doors like next week. I think you'll like it.
I love getting on site and seeing
asset.
it. There's nothing like being in real life. I had enough Zoom during COVID. It's efficient, but I do love getting together, and using our five senses. That's why I love getting home with my kids, going to the properties and seeing what it's like and it smells like, it feels like, the experience. I'm realizing how important as a father, those early years of those memories that we have,
is critical.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.